The sky of Nerion IV was burning. Once this world had been a peaceful planet covered with silver forests and blue lakes that glowed under two suns. Now the air smelled of smoke and plasma. Broken towers leaned over craters, and every hour the sound of explosions rolled across the horizon. Commander Auric Vale stood on a damaged balcony of the old royal palace. His combat armor was scratched and covered in ash, but his eyes were calm. Around him, human soldiers were moving wounded aliens on stretchers, trying to keep the defense line from collapsing. Above, giant shapes moved through the clouds. Void spawn, black creatures that floated like shadows. They were not made of metal or flesh, but of something in between, a living mist that consumed everything alive. Every time one touched the ground, life faded from the soil. The Zellari, the tall and silver-skinned natives of this planet, were fighting a losing war. For years they had tried to protect their capital, but the enemy multiplied faster than they could destroy it. When the Terran Expeditionary Corps, Auric's team, arrived, the Zellari greeted them with doubt. Humans were considered too emotional, too short-lived to understand such an ancient enemy. Still, the humans came to help. And now both races were standing together at the last defense wall. Auric looked at his wrist communicator.
"Status on the east flank?"
he asked. A soldier's voice replied through static. "Holding, sir, but barely. We're outnumbered 3-1. Auric exhaled slowly. "Tell them to fall back to Sector 9. We can't hold forever." He turned toward the main hall, where alien engineers and medics were rushing around a large crystal table that projected a holographic map. In the center of the chaos stood Princess Saraline Vayan, heir of the Zellari throne. She wore silver battle armor that shimmered with faint blue light, though her face showed exhaustion. Her eyes, bright like stars reflected in water, met Auric's. "Your people fight well, Commander. I did not expect such courage," Auric nodded. "We don't give up easily." Before either could speak more, a violent tremor shook the building. The lights flickered. Outside, a massive explosion turned part of the defense wall into fire. A wave of black mist surged toward the palace. "Void spawn breach," shouted a Zellari guard. Auric grabbed his plasma rifle and motioned to his squad. "We hold this hall. No one gets through." The fight that followed was chaos. The floor vibrated under the impact of weapons. Human rifles spat blue light. Zellari energy spears hummed as they cut through the dark shapes. Yet for every void spawn destroyed, 2 more appeared. Their shrieks echoed through the hall like broken glass. Saraline tried to command her soldiers, but a blast threw her to the ground. Auric saw her fall and sprinted through the smoke to reach her. He pulled her behind a fallen pillar just as a void spawn lashed out with a dark tendril. The attack grazed her arm, leaving a trail of black marks that pulsed with eerie light. "Are you hurt?" Auric shouted. She looked down at the wound, breathing hard. "The toxin. It's in my blood." Even as she spoke, the black lines began to spread up her arm toward her neck. Auric's heart pounded. He had seen this before. The toxin of the void spawn did not simply poison. It consumed life energy until nothing was left. He called for a medic. "Get me the med kit now." A human field medic knelt beside them and injected a neutralizer, but the princess's breathing grew weaker. "It's not working," the medic whispered. Saraline tried to stand, but her legs gave out. Auric caught her before she hit the floor. Her silver eyes dimmed. "Commander," she whispered faintly. "You must protect my people." "Don't talk like that," he said firmly. "You're going to live." 2 Zellari guards rushed in. "We must take her to the Royal Med Bay," one said. Together they carried her away while Auric and his team covered the retreat. The last of the void spawn melted back into smoke as the humans detonated their last thermal charge. When the battle quieted, the once bright palace hall was filled with smoke and silence. Hundreds of bodies lay where soldiers had fallen, Zellari and human alike. But there was no time to mourn. Auric followed the guards to the underground medbay, a bright chamber filled with machines that hummed softly. Alien medics surrounded Saraline, who now lay pale and motionless on a floating table. A shimmering field covered her body as scanners moved up and down. Auric waited outside until the chief medic, an old Zellari with crystal lenses over his eyes, approached him. "Commander Vale, you should not be here." "She saved my men up there," Auric said quietly. "I need to know if she'll make it." The medic sighed. "The toxin is spreading faster than we can neutralize. Her cells are collapsing. No medicine in our knowledge can stop it." "There has to be something," Auric insisted. Anything. The medic shook his head. The void spawn consume energy itself. The princess's body is shutting down. In a few hours. He didn't finish the sentence. Auric looked at the transparent wall separating him from Saraline. She looked peaceful now, as if asleep. But the faint black lines on her skin told a different story. He felt helpless. He had fought monsters, piloted gunships, and survived wars. But this was something he couldn't shoot or outsmart. He turned to his squad mate, Lieutenant Rex, who had just entered. Contact the Terran science team. Ask if we've got anything that fights cellular energy drain. Rex tapped his device. Already did. Nothing, sir. Our biotech said the Zalari biology's too different. Auric clenched his fists. Different or not, we can't just let her die. Hours passed. The palace fell silent except for the distant sound of battle outside. The Zalari Council gathered to discuss evacuation. Without their princess, morale would collapse. Auric listened to their arguments through the door. Some blamed the humans for interfering. Others simply prayed to their star gods. Inside the med bay, Saraline's condition worsened. The machines began to beep faster. The medic called out readings. Life force dropping. Neural link fading. While assistants rushed around him, Auric pushed past the guards and entered. What's happening? She's fading, one medic said. The void spawn energy is eating her life. Auric looked at the readings, energy drain, cell collapse, failing heartbeat. Then something on the scanner caught his eye. A pattern, rhythmic, like a pulse fighting back. He recognized it. The toxin responded to energy differences, not species. It fed on weakness but resisted strength. Humans, with their chaotic immune systems and adaptable cells, might resist it longer. An idea struck him. Mad and dangerous, but it was all he had. He turned to the medic. What if we transfused human blood into her? The entire room went silent. The chief medic stared at him in disbelief. You cannot be serious. Our blood is sacredly different. Such a mixture would kill her instantly. Maybe, Auric said, but doing nothing will kill her for sure. The medic's voice hardened. Commander, we will not allow. Auric cut him off. I'll take full responsibility. Prepare the line. The Zalari guards stepped forward, uncertain. One of them whispered, Human blood is chaos itself. Then let chaos fight for her, Auric replied. There was a long pause. Finally, the old medic lowered his eyes. If this fails, she will die in pain. She's already dying, Auric said. He pulled off his glove and rolled up his sleeve. His hand shook slightly as the medic hesitated, then connected the line between them. The moment the transfusion began, every machine in the room started flashing. Saraline's body jerked once. Her veins glowed faintly red and blue. The power lights flickered. Vital signs unstable. Shouted a medic, Hold it steady! Auric gritted his teeth as pain shot up his arm. His body felt cold, as if something was being drained out of him. He watched the princess's face, sweat, then a deep breath, then another. The dark lines began to fade. Impossible, whispered the medic. The monitors calmed. The black toxin vanished from her skin, replaced by a soft blue glow. Her breathing grew even. The room fell into complete silence except for the quiet hum of machines. Auric leaned back, dizzy but smiling faintly. She's alive, he murmured. The medic looked at the readings again and then at Auric. I do not understand it, he said softly. But it seems your blood fought the toxin. Outside, the distant thunder of battle still echoed, but inside that small room, something miraculous had happened. A human warrior's reckless act had just changed the fate of an alien princess, and perhaps of 2 entire worlds, and none of them yet knew what this shared blood would awaken next. The storm outside the palace never stopped. Thunder rolled across the skies of Nerion IV, mixing with the distant sound of explosions, but inside the underground medical wing, silence hung heavy. Only the rhythmic hum of machines and the slow beeping of a monitor filled the air. Princess Saraline lay still on the floating medical bed, her breathing steady now. A faint blue light shimmered beneath her skin, mixing with a strange red glow, a trace of human blood flowing through her veins. Around her stood the Zalari medics, whispering in disbelief. Commander Auric Vale sat nearby, his left arm bandaged where the transfusion line had connected him to her. His face looked pale from blood loss, but his eyes stayed fixed on her sleeping form. He could still hardly believe she was alive. The chief medic broke the silence. Her body has accepted the foreign blood, he said quietly. It should have rejected it instantly. It should have killed her. Another medic replied, yet it saved her life. The toxin vanished completely. The chief medic turned toward Arik. Your blood, it is resisting the void spawn corruption. I do not know how this is possible. Arik rubbed his temples. Humans have faced hundreds of diseases over the centuries. Our bodies learn fast. Maybe my blood confused the toxin. The medic frowned. Confused? Commander, what you did could have destroyed her mind, and perhaps yours as well. Arik gave a tired smile. Then we both got lucky. He stood up slowly and approached the glass chamber where Caroline rested. Her silver hair lay across the pillow like soft threads of light. For the first time since the battle began, she looked peaceful. The faint red glow moving under her skin was both strange and beautiful, proof of the shared bond between two species. Rex entered the room quietly, carrying a small datapad. Sir, the outer districts have fallen. The enemy is pushing toward the capital again. Arik's expression hardened. We'll move the civilians to the mountain shelters. What about reinforcements? Rex shook his head. Command says the fleet is still 2 days away. We're on our own, Arik sighed. Then we make those 2 days count. He turned back to Caroline, then to the medic. If she wakes up, tell her the fight's not over yet. The medic hesitated. Commander, she will need rest. She'll decide that herself, Arik interrupted softly. Then he walked out, his footsteps echoing through the dim corridor. Hours later, Caroline opened her eyes. The room felt strange, filled with lights and soft sounds she didn't recognize. Her body felt heavy, but different. She looked down at her hands. Her veins, once purely blue, now shimmered faintly red. It frightened her for a moment. She could feel energy moving through her, stronger, wilder, alive. Welcome back, Your Highness, came the gentle voice of the chief medic. She turned her head. The old Zalari doctor smiled, though his eyes showed worry. You are safe now. What happened to me? She asked softly. Her throat felt dry. You were dying, the medic said. Commander Vale gave you his blood. It cured the toxin, but... He hesitated. It changed you. Caroline touched her chest. She could feel her heartbeat echo strangely, almost like two rhythms inside one body. He gave me his blood, she repeated quietly. But why would he risk that? The medic looked down. He said he would not watch another life fade while he still had strength to give. A long silence filled the room. Caroline's gaze softened. Humans, she whispered. They truly are different. Then she looked at the reflection in the nearby mirror. The faint red traces in her veins glowed softly under the medical light. They looked like fire threads beneath her silver skin. This blood, it feels alive, she said. I can feel his memories, a glimpse of battlefields, oceans, storms. His world, the medic froze. You can feel his memories? Yes, she murmured, as if part of him is inside me. His courage, his pain, it's strange but not frightening. Outside, the ground trembled again as another explosion shook the capital. The medic turned to the door. The war still rages, Your Highness. We must evacuate soon. Caroline stood slowly, her strength returning faster than expected. No, I will not hide. My people need to see me alive. The medic tried to protest, but the princess's tone left no room for argument. Bring me my armor. When Arik returned from the command post, he was not expecting to see her walking down the corridor in full silver armor. The moment he saw her, he stopped. The faint red glow from her veins was visible even through the transparent panels of her armor. You should be resting, he said quickly. She smiled slightly. I have rested enough, Commander. You saved my life. Now I must save my world. Arik shook his head. You're still recovering. Maybe, she said softly. But something has changed. I can feel energy around me. I can sense the void spawn moving through the ground like shadows. He stared at her, unsure whether to believe it. You can feel them? Yes, she said, her voice calm but firm. And when I concentrate, they retreat. The closer they come, the weaker they grow. Arik looked at her in astonishment. That's impossible, she smiled faintly. So was living through your blood. They stood in silence for a moment. Around them, the corridors buzzed with human and Zalari soldiers preparing for the next wave of attack. Arik's communicator beeped again, a signal from the outer wall. They're coming, he muttered. Caroline's expression hardened. Then let's meet them. The next battle came at dawn. The void spawn poured from the dark hills like a black river. Their shrieks filled the air as they moved toward the capital. Human gunships roared overhead, firing blue plasma bolts. Zalari energy towers glowed bright as they unleashed waves of light. Arik led his squad along the front wall, shouting orders and firing bursts of energy at the advancing enemy. But something different happened this time. A bright figure rose above the battlefield, Saraline, her armor shining with blue and red light. Her presence alone seemed to push the darkness back. Every step she took burned away the black mist around her. The soldiers on both sides paused in awe. By the stars, Rex whispered from the turret. She's glowing. Arik lowered his rifle, staring up at her. She's not glowing, he said quietly. She's fighting them. Saraline closed her eyes. Her heartbeat echoed like thunder in her chest. Through the strange bond between her and Arik, she could feel the void spawn, a cold, hungry presence that hated light. And deep inside she could feel his strength guiding her, steady and unyielding. She raised her hand and a wave of energy burst from her palm, pure and bright. The front line of void spawn disintegrated instantly. Soldiers cheered. The Zalari banners rose again over the walls. But the power took its toll. Saraline staggered, breathing hard. Arik ran toward her, catching her as she nearly fell. Easy, he said softly. You're pushing yourself too hard. She smiled weakly. Your blood gives me strength. But it also burns. I can feel both of our energies fighting to stay balanced. Arik helped her stand. Then we learned to control it together. Their eyes met for a moment, not as soldier and princess, but as two beings bound by something far beyond understanding. A nearby soldier called out, "The void spawn are retreating. They're falling back." The entire battlefield erupted in cheers. The humans and Zalari looked at each other in disbelief. For the first time in years, the enemy was running. Arik looked at Saraline. Whatever happened in that med bay? It's bigger than either of us, she nodded slowly. It is not just blood that connects us, Commander, it is will. Human will is something the void spawn cannot understand. Arik gave a faint smile. Then maybe that's how we win this war. Later that night, as the two sons of Nerion sat behind the shattered towers, Saraline stood beside Arik on the palace balcony. The wind carried the scent of ash and new hope. Far away, the black mist of the void spawn still lingered, waiting for their next move. Saraline looked at her glowing hands. My people fear this change, she said quietly. They whisper that I am no longer Zalari. Arik looked at her and said, Maybe you're something more. She turned to him with a thoughtful smile. And you, Commander Vale, you have given more than any ally ever has. He shrugged lightly. If giving blood saves lives, it's a small price. She looked up at the stars. Perhaps the universe chose you for this moment. He chuckled softly. I just did what felt right. But deep down, both knew this was only the beginning. Something powerful was growing inside them. Not just strength, but a connection that could change the course of two civilizations. And as the night sky shimmered above the quiet battlefield, the legend of the human who gave his blood to save an alien princess had only just begun. The next morning, the sky over Nerion 4 was strangely calm. For the first time in months, the two suns shone through the clouds without being blocked by black mist. The air smelled like rain instead of ash. It almost felt like the planet was breathing again. Commander Arik Vale walked through the ruined courtyard of the palace, his boots crunching over broken crystal tiles. Soldiers were rebuilding defenses, patching walls, and tending to the wounded. Everywhere he looked, he saw a mix of human and Zalari working side by side. It was something no one would have believed possible a few weeks ago. When he reached the command center, he found Princess Saraline standing by the holographic map. She looked stronger, her armor newly polished, her posture confident. Yet her skin still carried the faint red glow beneath the blue, a reminder of what had happened. The Zalari council members stood nearby, whispering quietly. Their expressions were mixed, awe, fear, confusion. One of them spoke. Your Highness, what you did yesterday defies all reason. The void spawn fled before you. Our sensors recorded an energy burst not seen in our history. Another counselor frowned. But at what cost? You are no longer purely Zalari. You carry human essence now. We cannot predict what that means. Saraline turned to them calmly. It means I am alive. It means our people are alive. That should be enough for now. They looked uneasy but said nothing more. Arik stepped closer. They're worried, he said softly. They always are, she replied. Change frightens them. Change frightens everyone, he said, managing a small smile. For a moment, they simply stood together in quiet understanding. Then Saraline gestured to the holographic map. The void spawn hive is moving again. My senses tell me they are regrouping deep below the planet's surface. Arik raised an eyebrow. Your senses? She nodded slowly. Since your blood entered my body, I can feel them, like shadows in my mind. They move in the dark, feeding on fear. But I can also feel something else. A connection to you, Arik blinked. To me? Yes, she said, meeting his eyes. When I close my eyes, I can sense your heartbeat. When you speak, I feel the pulse of energy in my veins answer it. It's like our lives are tied together. He crossed his arms, thinking. Maybe it's some kind of link from the transfusion. Neural, biological, maybe even psychic. She smiled faintly. Whatever it is, it helped us win yesterday. When I stood on that battlefield, I felt your courage inside me. It made me stronger. Arik looked away, trying to hide the small grin that appeared on his face. Guess we make a good team. Later that day, the human engineers brought reports of strange energy readings spreading across the city. Power crystals glowed brighter when Saraline was near. Damaged machines restarted themselves. Even the air felt charged with quiet energy. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a warning. As the suns began to set, Arik found Saraline again, this time on the highest balcony overlooking the city. The view stretched for miles. Silver towers, floating bridges, and the faint shimmer of protective shields around the capital. In the distance, black clouds still marked the territory of the void spawn. Saraline stood silently, her eyes reflecting the orange and violet light of the setting suns. You should be resting, Arik said as he joined her. I feel no need for rest, she replied softly. My body no longer feels the same. The human blood changed more than my strength. It changed my senses, even my thoughts. Arik leaned on the railing beside her. How so? I used to see the universe as order, patterns, logic, and balance. But now, she smiled slightly. Now I feel emotion more deeply. I understand why your people fight so fiercely. It's not only for survival. It's for meaning, Arik nodded slowly. That's what being human is like. We fight even when it doesn't make sense because we believe something matters. Her gaze turned thoughtful. Perhaps that is why the void spawn fear you. He raised an eyebrow. Fear us? Yes, she said quietly. They feed on despair and emptiness. Humans are full of chaos and hope, the very things they cannot consume. Before Arik could answer, the palace lights flickered. A deep vibration ran through the floor. The sound of alarms echoed through the halls. He tapped his communicator. Report. Rex's voice came through. Commander, we're detecting a massive energy surge under the city. It's the void spawn. They're tunneling from below. Arik's expression hardened. Get everyone to defensive positions. I'll meet you at the lower gate, he turned to Saraline. Stay here, Your Highness. It's too dangerous. She shook her head firmly. No, I can feel them moving toward me. They're after something, maybe me. If I hide, they'll only destroy more. Arik sighed. You never listen, do you? Her lips curved slightly. You wouldn't either. Minutes later, the ground near the palace cracked open with a roar. Black mist exploded upward as hundreds of void spawn emerged, crawling and flying through the air. Their bodies pulsed with green light and their shrieks pierced the night sky. Human soldiers formed firing lines while Zalari warriors activated energy shields. Plasma bolts and energy spears filled the air with glowing light. The battle had begun again. Arik charged to the front, shouting commands. Hold your fire lines. Don't let them swarm. He fired his rifle, cutting down the first wave of creatures. The smell of burned air filled his lungs. He moved like a storm, his every shot precise. Behind him, Saraline raised her hands. Her body began to glow with blue and red energy again. This time the light was stronger and more focused. The void spawn screamed as the light touched them, their forms dissolving into dust. But as her power grew, so did the strain. Her vision blurred. The link between her and Arik pulsed wildly, filling her head with flashes, his memories, his pain, his humanity. She saw glimpses of Earth, oceans crashing on rocky cliffs, cities shining under rain, children running under a sky full of stars. She stumbled. Overwhelmed, Arik felt it too. A sudden rush of energy in his chest, like lightning in his blood. He turned and saw her kneeling, her hands shaking. Without thinking, he ran toward her, covering her with his shield as another wave of creatures attacked. Saraline! He shouted, "Focus! You're losing control!" "I'm trying," she gasped. "It's too much." He grabbed her hand. "Then take my strength again. We'll face them together." Their hands touched and a surge of energy burst between them. The ground glowed beneath their feet and a shockwave rippled outward. Every void spawn within 100 meters screamed and turned to dust. The battlefield fell silent. Soldiers stared in shock. Even the clouds above seemed to part, letting starlight shine through. Auric and Sarah stood breathing heavily, their hands still linked. Faint trails of light swirled around them, a mix of human red and Zalari blue. Rex approached cautiously. "Sir, what did you just do?" Auric shook his head slowly. "I wish I knew." After the battle, the survivors gathered in the Great Hall. The air smelled of smoke and ozone. Engineers checked damaged shields while medics tended to the wounded. Everyone spoke in hushed tones about what they had witnessed. Sarah stood in the center, still glowing faintly. "The void spawn will return," she said. "That was only a fragment of their power. We need to find their source, the hive below the planet's crust." A counselor protested. "You cannot go there. It is too dangerous. If they capture you, everything is lost." Sarah looked to Auric. "Then we don't let them capture us." He met her gaze, understanding what she meant. "We go into the hive," he said firmly. "End this from the inside." The council erupted in noise, but neither of them backed down. Finally, Sarah raised her hand and silence fell. "Enough. I will not sit behind walls while others fight for me. The time for fear is over." Her words spread like fire. Even the human soldiers straightened, inspired by her courage. Auric looked at her with quiet admiration. "You really are something else, Princess." She turned to him, her expression soft but strong. "Not a princess anymore, Commander. Not just Zalari either. I think I'm becoming something in between." He smiled faintly. "Then maybe that's what we need. Something between two worlds." Outside, thunder rolled across the horizon again. The ground trembled faintly, a reminder that the war was far from over. But for the first time, both human and Zalari believed victory might be possible. And as the sun set beyond the ruins, two figures stood together, a human warrior and a half-human, half-Zalari princess, bound by blood, courage, and something even greater, the awakening of hope. The war was not over. Though the skies above Nerion 4 were finally free of the void spawn swarms, the heart of darkness still beat deep beneath the planet's surface. The scientists called it the heart of the void, a living fortress buried under miles of blackened rock pulsing with strange energy. It was there that the true source of the invasion waited, whispering commands to its endless army. Princess Sarah stood on the balcony of the rebuilt command base, her silver armor shining in the morning light. Blue and red light shimmered faintly through the veins on her hands, a sign of the human blood flowing within her. She still struggled to understand it, how one act of kindness from a human warrior had changed her so completely. Commander Auric Vale walked up beside her, his uniform worn from battle. He carried new scars, but his eyes still burned with that same unbreakable will. "They say the void is regrouping underground," he said quietly. "If we don't stop it now, it will return stronger than before." Sarah turned to face him. Her voice was calm, but her gaze was determined. "Then we end it, Commander, together." Auric nodded. "You've changed since the transfusion. The void spawn fear you." "They should," Sarah replied, a soft blue glow rising from her fingertips. "Your blood, your strength." It gave me something new. I can feel them now, their thoughts, their hunger. But they can feel me too. The Zalari generals stood behind them, whispering among themselves. Many still didn't trust humans, and even fewer trusted what Sarah had become. To them, she was no longer a pure Zalari. She was something unknown, something mixed. Yet as they looked upon her, they also saw hope. The void spawn had stopped advancing since her recovery. Her presence alone seemed to drive them back. That night, a final plan was made. Auric and Sarah would lead a small strike team into the heart of the void. Their goal was to destroy its central core, the mind node that controlled the creatures across the galaxy. It was a mission few expected to survive. The next morning, the human dropship landed near the largest crater on Nerion 4. The air shimmered with strange heat, and the ground trembled under every step. Thick clouds of black dust swirled like smoke, and the sky flashed with faint lightning. Auric and Sarah stepped off the ramp together. Around them stood a mixed team of Terran Marines and Zalari warriors, working side by side for the first time. The soldiers carried both plasma rifles and energy blades, combining the best of two worlds. Saraline lifted her hand. The heart lies beneath this ground. I can sense its pulse, she said softly. Follow me. Stay close. The team entered the cavern below. Glowing red crystals lit their way as they descended. Strange whispers echoed through the tunnels, voices that seemed to come from inside their own minds. The Void Spawn were watching. Halfway down, Arik stopped to help a fallen Marine who tripped on uneven rock. The moment his hand touched the soldier's shoulder, Saraline felt a spark inside her mind. She turned sharply, her eyes glowing brighter. Your energy. It reaches others, she said, surprised. Arik frowned. What do you mean? You're changing too, she whispered. My blood runs through you now as yours runs through me. We are linked more than either of us understand. For a moment, silence filled the tunnel. Then the sound of shrieking filled the air. The Void Spawn had arrived. Dark shapes with twisted limbs crawled from the walls, their glowing eyes fixed on the intruders. Contact, shouted one of the Marines. Arik raised his plasma rifle and fired, the air bursting with blue light. Saraline drew her twin energy blades, moving with inhuman grace. She leapt forward, slicing through the creatures with quick, precise strikes. The Void Spawn screamed as their bodies dissolved into ash under her touch. When one of the monsters lunged toward Arik, Saraline reacted instinctively. She reached out and a burst of light exploded from her palm, half blue, half red, sending the creature flying backward into the cavern wall. Everyone froze. Even Arik stared in awe. I didn't know I could do that, Saraline whispered. Arik smiled faintly. Seems like your human side just learned something new. They fought their way deeper, step by step, until they reached a massive gate of living stone. It pulsed like a heartbeat, glowing with a sickly green hue. Beyond it lay the core of the void. Saraline pressed her hands against the gate. It's alive, she said. It feels pain. Arik stepped forward. Then we give it something to feel. The gate opened slowly, revealing a vast chamber. The walls moved as if breathing, and in the center floated a gigantic black sphere covered in writhing tendrils. Every surface glowed with strange energy. This is it, Arik said. The mind node. The team began setting up explosive charges around the chamber. But before they could finish, a deep voice echoed inside their heads. You cannot destroy what is eternal. Everyone froze. The voice didn't come from any speaker. It came from within their minds. Saraline stepped forward, her eyes burning bright. I can hear you, she said. I am not afraid of you. You carry the chaos of humanity and the purity of the Zalari, the voice rumbled. You are neither. You are nothing. Arik aimed his weapon at the sphere. Then nothing is exactly what you'll become. The mind node screamed and hundreds of void spawn poured from the walls. The chamber became a storm of energy and fire. The soldiers fought fiercely, but for every creature they killed, two more took its place. In the middle of the chaos, Saraline closed her eyes. She could feel the void, its hunger, its pain, its endless cycle of destruction. But she could also feel something else, Arik's heartbeat, his will, his belief in her. She reached out mentally, connecting with him through the bond they shared. Arik, she whispered through the link, if I merge with the void's core, I can stop it. Arik's voice echoed back, filled with worry. No, you'll die. Not if you help me, she said. We share blood. If we combine our strength, maybe we can survive. Arik hesitated for only a moment. Then he dropped his weapon and placed his hand on her shoulder. All right, princess. Let's finish this. Together they stepped forward and touched the mind node. A blinding light filled the room. The void spawn screamed and burned away as waves of energy burst outward. Arik and Saraline felt their minds merging, human courage and alien harmony blending into one force. The mind node tried to resist, but their bond was too strong. Then, with one final surge of light, the core shattered. The explosions stopped. The whispers faded. The void was silent. When the light dimmed, Arik collapsed to the ground, breathing heavily. Saraline knelt beside him, her own strength fading. The room around them was calm now, peaceful. You did it, Arik said weakly. No, Saraline replied softly. We did it. She helped him stand, and together they looked up at the fading glow of the mind node. The darkness was gone. The planet was free. As they walked back toward the exit, Saraline glanced at Arik. "You gave me your blood once," she said. "Now I give you my strength." Arik smiled faintly. "Guess that makes us even." Outside, the night sky was clear for the first time in years. The stars shone bright above Nerion 4, and for a moment both human and Zilari soldiers stood side by side, silent in awe. The war was finally over. But the legend of the human and the hybrid princess was only beginning. The first light of Nerion 4's twin suns rose over a world reborn. The skies were clear, the ash of war replaced by the faint green shimmer of regenerating forests. For the first time in years, the capital city of the Zilari glimmered with hope instead of smoke. Commander Arik Vale walked through the streets, his armor dusty and scorched, but his posture straight. Around him, Terran soldiers and Zilari warriors worked together to repair the broken city, clearing rubble and rebuilding homes. Children for the first time in months ran through the streets laughing without fear. Yet even in the calm, the shadow of what had happened lingered. The battle against the Void Spawn had changed more than the land. It had changed lives, most of all that of Princess Saraline. She stood on the steps of the royal palace looking down at her people. The soft glow of red and blue veins pulsed faintly beneath her skin, a permanent reminder of the human blood that had saved her life. Her eyes, once purely silver, now carried a warmth that reflected both Zilari nobility and human courage. The Zilari council gathered around her, speaking in hushed tones. Many still feared the changes within her. Others admired the strength she now carried. Saraline lifted her hands. "People of Nerion," she said, her voice steady, "we have survived the darkness. Not because of one hero, not because of one race, but because we stood together, human and Zilari alike." The crowd fell silent. Even the oldest counselors who had doubted the humans listened. Arik stepped forward. He had been by her side through battles, through fear, and through the impossible. Now he stood quietly, letting her speak. Saraline continued, "Our planet has been broken, but it can heal. And so can we if we do not let pride or fear keep us apart. Today we declare a new alliance. Terrans and Zilari will stand as one. Together we will protect Nerion 4 and all life that calls it home." There was a murmur among the crowd. Some whispered, "She has changed. Not purely Zilari." Others whispered in awe, "Her power." "It is incredible." Arik looked at her. "You're not just a princess anymore," he said quietly. "No," Saraline replied. "I am more. I am both, a bridge between our worlds." The days that followed were filled with rebuilding. Humans and Zilari cleared debris, repaired homes, and restored the palace. Engineers worked together, combining human technology with Zilari energy systems. The city's energy grid, once destroyed, now pulsed stronger than ever. Machines hummed with life, powered by a mixture of human ingenuity and Zilari crystal energy. Saraline moved among her people, offering guidance and reassurance. She noticed how children were drawn to her, curious about the glow in her veins. She smiled and knelt to greet them. "Do not be afraid," she said. "You are safe now." Arik walked beside her, helping a Zilari elder lift a fallen beam. They spoke quietly. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Stronger," she said, looking at her hands. "But different. Your blood, it is part of me now. I feel your courage, your memories, even your fears. They are mine as much as they are yours." He shook his head slowly. "That's a lot for anyone to carry." "And yet," she said softly, "I am alive. And so is our planet. Perhaps that is all that matters." Not all the changes were simple. Some Zilari citizens were wary of the humans, and some Terran soldiers were unsure how to interact with their new allies. But over time, trust grew. Shared victories and shared losses created bonds that no old prejudice could break. One evening, Saraline and Arik stood on the rebuilt balcony overlooking the city. The twin suns were setting, casting orange and violet light over the crystal towers. "You know," Arik said, "I never thought my blood could do something like this. I thought it would be a gamble, maybe even a death sentence for both of us." She smiled faintly. "It was a risk worth taking, and it revealed something important, that humanity's strength is not only in weapons or technology, but in the willingness to sacrifice for others." Arik looked at her, his eyes softening. "Then maybe that's what we should teach our people. Courage isn't just fighting, it's caring. It's standing up when the odds are against you." Saraline's glow pulsed slightly stronger in response, as if agreeing. Yes, and love and friendship, those are just as powerful as any weapon. Weeks passed. The alliance between humans and Zalari became official. Schools taught both languages and citizens shared stories and traditions. Soldiers trained together, combining tactics and strategies. Scientists studied the bond between Saraline and Arik, hoping to understand how human and Zalari biology had merged to defeat the void spawn. One day, as Saraline and Arik walked through the city's main plaza, a small group of children approached. One Zalari girl tugged at Saraline's cloak. "Your Highness," she said shyly, "will the humans stay here now?" Saraline knelt to her level. "Yes, they are part of our world now, and you can learn from them, just as they learn from us. Together we will make Nerion 4 stronger." The child's eyes widened. "So we are all friends?" "All friends," Saraline confirmed, smiling. Arik watched the exchange quietly. "You've changed everything," he said softly. "And you helped me do it," she replied. Months later, the planet had almost fully recovered. Forests began to regrow, rivers cleared, and the cities were shining with crystal energy once again. The citizens celebrated a festival for the victory over the void spawn, lighting the skies with glowing orbs and songs of triumph. Saraline stood at the center of the celebration, her red and blue glow visible even from a distance. She raised her hands and a gentle pulse of energy rippled through the crowd, not harmful, only calming and inspiring. Humans and Zalari cheered together, realizing that something greater than fear had guided them to survive. Arik stood beside her, holding her hand briefly. "You really have become something new," he said quietly. "I have," she said. "Not just a princess, not just a human ally, but a symbol of hope, of unity, of what two worlds can do when they fight together." As night fell, the twin moons of Nerion 4 rose, casting soft silver light over the city. Saraline and Arik walked to the highest tower, looking out over the planet they had saved. The wind carried the scent of new life, of water and growing trees, of smoke no longer. Arik broke the silence. "Do you ever wonder, what would have happened if we hadn't tried the transfusion?" Saraline smiled faintly. "I don't like to think about it, but we took a risk and we won. That's what matters. Sometimes courage is more important than caution." He nodded. "And sometimes humanity surprises even me." Her glow pulsed gently in agreement. "You gave me your strength when I needed it most. You trusted in me, even when no one else would. That is what makes humans remarkable." Arik shrugged. "I just did what I thought was right. Never imagined it would change the universe." "Then perhaps it did," she said. Together they stood in silence, watching the twin moons rise. Behind them the city celebrated, but above them, the stars told a quiet story, one of courage, unity, and a human warrior who had dared to offer his blood for an alien princess. It was a story that would echo through the galaxy. And somewhere deep inside, Saraline and Arik knew this was only the beginning. Two species, once separate, now connected in ways no one could have imagined, ready to face whatever the universe might throw at them next. The light of the twin moons glinted off their hands, human and Zalari, bonded by blood, courage, and hope. Together, they had turned despair into triumph. Together, they had rewritten the fate of a planet. Nerion 4 was alive, and humanity had proven once more that even in the darkest times, one heart, one choice could change everything.